All right, super. Hello, everyone. I am Coach Q, and I'm here with my wonderful friend from high school. We graduated high school back in 2003. So if you want to know how old I am, because I know I look so amazing. By the way, right? I'm just kidding. But seriously,
No,
we
you're
did
true.
graduate. Oh, thank you. In 2003, we went to Riverdale High School. Um, and a couple of maybe like a month or so ago now, I was on Facebook scrolling, and you know how you just kind of reading stuff, and I came across this long status from Cassandra, and I was like, okay. I started reading the status, and in the status, you became very, very transparent about wanting to commit suicide, like your struggles with mental health.
Mhm.
And what struck me in this story is that the honesty, number one, the honesty to just not say mental health, but to own what the issue is and say, this is what I was facing. This is what I did. And I'm not giving all the pieces of it because I want you to get into it. I want you to
Yeah.
talk about it. But I remember reading that and just my heart was like, whew, because I remember seeing you at the last gala that I had, and I started to think to myself, during this time, was she dealing with that while wearing a smile, and I didn't even know it, right? And so many times we are around people who are smiling, who are loving on everybody, who are just everything to everyone, all while being empty, right? And losing hope and depressed. And we never know it because a lot of times we take a smile, we take a joyful spirit as someone saying, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Um, but it's so important that we just pause for even the people that are always looking good, making you feel good, seem like they just got it all together. It's so important that we pause and say, hey, how are you doing? Like, really, how are you doing? And we need to slow down because it was in the slowing down of someone very important, and I'll let you get into your story that really saved your life. So Cassandra, I'm really excited to just number one, just have this conversation. We hear so much about mental health today. But I want to get deep. I want to dig deeper. I want to create a space for you just to be heard, for you to connect with someone else who is in the position of, you know what, I've had enough, right? It's so much that you can say to that person on a deeper level than a lot of us can say. So I really want to create this space for number one, you just to be heard, but for other people to hear you. So with that being said, Cassandra, thank you for having this conversation with me today.
No, thank you for having me. The one thing I definitely am always grateful for is for people to hear me beyond my words. And you're right. You read that post. You as well as many others reached out to me via DM. Text me, call me, and checked on me. And I wasn't trying to get attention per se. As a matter of fact, when I posted my story regarding what had happened to me. I just wanted to say, you know what, it's time for me to just speak on it. I had already been in a recovery process for probably at least 6 months prior to me making the post. I just needed to let the world know that, this is still ongoing. So what I'm referring to as this is June 3rd of 2020. I went into work and I decided, enough was enough. I have been dealing with a lot of issues from my past, not really addressing them, just kept smothering them. And it seemed like, I guess, the inner child, the inner person in me just kept screaming and needed to be released. And um, I had been depressed for many years, even going back to when we were in high school. I was going through a lot of stuff that a lot of people didn't know about, while everyone was getting ready for, prom and, graduation and filling out, college applications and stuff, I was, in a different headspace. And I had a lot of encouragement from a lot of teachers, staff members, and classmates as well, who kept me going. But I still never really could tell anyone what was really wrong with me. And so on June 3rd of 2020, enough was enough for me. I decided, I just wanted to go to work. I wanted to put in my notice because I am just that person and wanted to still fulfill whatever projects I was working on. I just wanted to go. So I went to my vice president and my manager, and I was like, hey, I need to put in my notice. Now, at this point, I had already come to them at least 3 or 4 times prior, advising that I wanted to quit. And it was a lot of issues at work, um, especially with the career that I was in. But the bigger issue was me. I couldn't be the Cassandra I knew they were expecting me to be. I couldn't be the Cassandra the world was expecting me to be any longer because I just was crumbling on the inside. So I went to work. I told them I didn't want to be there any longer. And my vice president looked at me and was like, Cassandra, what's really going on? And I said, I don't want to be here anymore. And he was like, is it your department? Like, what is it? Like, I just put my head down and I just kept saying, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. So eventually he just was like, you got to go a little deeper than that. What do you mean? I was like, I don't want to be on this earth anymore. I'm
Mm.
trying to rid myself of any further pain. And I'm just trying to do right by y'all by putting in my notice so
Wow.
I can at least finish up existing projects and I can be out. And at that moment, he stopped and was like, no, that's not happening. And he drove me to the hospital and waited until I was admitted, for care. And then that in itself was another roller coaster of emotions.
Right. So let's just, for a minute, just pause there. You were saying, I just don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
And most people would have just taken that as you don't want to be in this space.
Right.
You don't want to be at this job. You're over it. You were saying that, understanding the context in which it would normally be received, but somebody just took a little bit of extra time and said, wait a minute, what are you really saying?
Yep.
And you weren't just saying, I don't want to be here at this job anymore. You were saying, like, I don't want to live anymore. I've had enough.
That's right.
And kudos to you for the strength to own your story, own what you were really saying, because most of us would have allowed somebody to assume.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I just don't want to be here. It would have been easier to go that route,
Yeah.
but you decided to be honest.
Yeah.
And when I coach clients, I always tell people, I can only help you at your degree of honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have to go by the story that you tell me, right? Yeah. And so you decided to tell the truth. And then he said, nope, I'm not going to let you give up like that.
Yeah.
He drove you to the hospital. What was that experience like for you?
It was scary. And prior to me turning in or not turning in, but going to work saying I didn't want to be here any longer, I had been saying that for months to family and friends. I was like, y'all gonna have to figure out how to, cook this particular meal because, I'm not gonna always be here, or, you gotta learn how to, do this because, I won't always be around to help you. I mean, I started saying that a lot to people, and my vice president was the first one who truly heard me. And so on the way to the hospital, he actually took the longest route to get there.
Mm.
And he decided to talk to me, not even about me, but just, we drove through a historic part of a neighborhood, and I live in LaGrange currently, and we drove through a historic part of LaGrange, Georgia, and he was saying, just giving me the history of like the Callaways, if you're familiar with Callaway Garden, the history of
Mhm.
like the family of the Callaways and different things of that nature. And kind of took my mind off of the conversation we just had, because now I'm at a point where I'm embarrassed. I am the only Black woman on my team, in the field that I'm working in, and this type of behavior is not accepted in my culture, in our culture, and so I'm embarrassed and I'm hurt and I'm upset with myself, because it's like I should have just not have said anything. I should have just went through with it, because now I gotta go to the hospital. This is another bill I gotta worry about. I'm gonna be missing work. What are they gonna say when I come back? So I had a lot going through my head, and I was really nervous about what was going to happen. So getting to the hospital, I already was kind of on edge.
Mhm.
I immediately regretted what I said. I immediately started saying I was just having a bad day. I immediately started backing out, but deep down inside, I really did need the help. I was just afraid, though. I
Yeah.
didn't proceed.
That's so, you said so much because number one, you brought up as a Black woman in the workplace, being the only Black person on your team. As Black women, we have to always show up so strong,
Yeah,
and we have it all together and nothing bothers us and we just let everything roll off our back. And that's not really our reality. Like, that's the face that we put on, but we have feelings just like everyone else, right? Um, but we've been so conditioned to be carriers
yeah,
of more than what we can really bear, that even if it means to our demise, we will carry it.
yeah,
And you also talked about it just not being culturally acceptable. Again, that's just the stereotype of Black women are so strong, and we are. Like, I will toot our horns. We are phenomenal women, but we are human,
yeah,
right? And we have feelings and we have needs, and we have times when we really could use some help. But because of the stereotype of what we can bear, rarely is it extended in the way that it should be. So
absolutely.
here you were, like, all of a sudden, not just feeling the weight of what you were dealing with, but also just carrying the weight of, I have failed the stereotypes of Black women,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So you, instead of even being in a place of getting help, you really said, you know what, never mind. I, that's okay. That's okay. Because of what this looks like, I'll walk away from it. How
yep.
did you get to the point of committing to the help?
Um, because I was taken to the hospital, and my vice president admitted me, and already told them what was going on and stuff like that. Um, I didn't know the steps of what were to come. So I
Hmm.
I got back to the nurse's station, got checked into a room. It didn't become really real until I was actually placed into a room, a suicide watch room. And then all of a sudden, being in a room in a bed with no hospital equipment, a window like double my height, with no way to climb out or anything like
Hmm.
that. Um, they wouldn't even give me a blanket or a pillow, because that might aid me in my suicide attempt. And I'm like, wait, it's not that serious. So I thought, and again, I'm panicked now. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't be here. This is not what I signed up for. And then hours went by. I couldn't communicate with my loved ones, to let them know I'm not coming home from work. I'm in the hospital. They took everything from me. I was stripped of my cell phone. They made me get out of my work clothes. I had to take my hair down. And like, even though I have my hair like really short today,
Hmm.
my locks are like down my back, and they checked through my hair and made me squat, like things that I was not used to. So I'm really panicked now, and um when the doctor finally came in, and was like, here's what's going on, here's the next steps, and told me I was being transported to a behavioral health mental facility. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not going anywhere. Well, unfortunately, whenever you're coded, I forgot the code, but whenever you're coded for a suicide attempt, you no longer have rights to say what you can and can't do. You are now a ward of the state. At least in my case and what I went through, you are now a ward of the state, and I had to be transported into the care of a facility that would at least monitor me to make sure I'm not going to cause any harm to myself. So, whatever the code is, I was ruled out as being suicidal, and I was being prepared to be shipped off. And at this point, I left work at like 2:30 in the afternoon. And at this point, when the doctor came in, it's like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening. I get strapped down to a hospital bed and loaded up on the ambulance at 1:30 in the morning to go to the facility that they shipped me to, which was an hour and a half away from LaGrange, in the back of ambulance with you know, a paramedic sitting in the back to make sure I don't try to jump out or do anything. I was strapped down the whole time. So I am I'm really going through it now. So that to answer what you were asking, I had no choice but to commit at that point. Because I said too much, I guess. So
let me ask you, because that just makes me just wonder, from a place of being in a vulnerable place where you become honest, and then you almost go to this hostile environment, if you will. What would have made that transition for you a little bit easier?
I think that is a very fair and honest question. And it's kind of like what my passion is today. Knowledge. Um, I really wish I really wish resources were more readily available for people who are just going through like some type of depressive stage or having anxiety or whatever the case may be. Um, I really wish there were more resources that were more readily available, because I probably could have asked for the type of help I needed had I known what to ask for.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what my mission is right now. And I'll get to that a little bit later on as well. But yeah, just having more resources, just more knowledge would have made it a lot less intimidating and a lot less scary for me.
Absolutely. I think I asked that question because, God forbid you have this experience ever again, but the trauma that's associated with getting help, right? Like, okay, now I put you in this room, I take everything from you, and then I strap you down and I don't let you move. And it's almost just like, there are some cases and instances where extreme measures need to be taken, but what happens a lot of times in our healthcare system is it's a one size fit all mentality. And when we come to individual care, we do not all need the same thing. We do not all need the same treatment.
Right.
And sometimes we just need somebody to listen. Sometimes we need somebody to be there. Sometimes we need people to just see us.
Yeah.
Right? But it took more than just your boss seeing you. It came along with, he saw you, then you had to go through this other experience, and it was almost like forced help. Yeah. Right? Looking back on it, do you believe that is what you needed in that moment?
Um, I think in order to have saved myself and allow me to talk to you today, it was absolutely necessary.
Mhm.
Um, I was confused at the time, just did not know what to do. And I would like to at least say that along the way, from the time I got checked into the hospital, like the nurses were looking at me because here I am coming in professional uniform. I come from an IT background. I am speaking to them. I'm not coming in because I'm just like strung out on drugs or, just went through a very traumatic experience, just the day before or something like that. I was able to walk in. I was very knowledgeable of myself and my surroundings. I was able to communicate. A lot of people were saying, you're too articulate to be here.
Mm.
Are you? So I was being questioned, along the way too. But the great thing is, I did have a couple of people at the hospital who also saw me and kind of helped to calm me down. Had a really, really nice. Um, I don't want to say she was a nurse. She worked for the fire department, but somehow she was doing a shift at the hospital, and she came in, and she wasn't even supposed to be in there talking to me the way that she was, but she was like, "My spirit tells me you're not supposed to be here. You've been through a lot, but this is not how you're supposed to be getting your help." And even then, I was like, not really sure what she was saying, but I kind of understood it because I was like, you're right. I'm not supposed to be here. And even when I got admitted into the hospital, you know, um, I had some of the MHTs, mental health technician, who I don't want to say gave me special treatment, but they just came to me on my level. And one particular MHT, and oh gosh, I love her, and I really hate that because of the circumstance, I can't really befriend her. You know what I'm saying? But she really came to me. She saw me and was like, mm-mm, "You just need somebody to talk to," And I did not know that's what I needed at the time. So it was very confusing,
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
backwards to me in a sense. And again, I still had a lot of disgrace. I'm sitting here still walking with my head down, like I'm really going to a mental institution. Like, what is the world going to say? I'm not going to be able to talk to anyone about any advice. They're going to just stereotype me and say, oh, there's a crazy lady coming. And, I really even more didn't want to be here. So,
Absolutely. And I think that is that's just such an honest thing. So many people are afraid of the stigma that comes along with receiving help, mental health help, right? And the reality is that we all have mental health challenges, right? We all have moments that are bigger than us. We all have pains that are greater than us. And we all have moments where we just need a safe space. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care what your profession is, how much money you make, your gender, your creed. It does not matter. We all reach a point where
yeah,
we deal with things that are bigger than us. And what you said stuck out to me was that people were looking at you like you didn't belong. I am so tired of the poster child for pain description. Everybody does
yeah,
not fit into that description of a poster child. You know how what it is? Some people commit suicide and they're like, oh my God, they had such a beautiful family and a great job. Well, if that was all we needed to exempt us from pain, then a lot of us would be okay. But those are not the prerequisites, okay? And we have to get out of the habit of telling people that, well, you don't look like you're going through that,
right.
right? Because this is the thing. We have, for centuries, we have decorated our pain. We've decorated it to make it look appealing and attractive because we have been told that we have to hide behind that stuff. We've been told push through, keep your
Right.
head up, be positive. But rarely do we hear people say, be honest.
I agree.
That's encouragement too. Be honest.
Yeah.
How are you doing? What do you need? What do you feel?
Mm-hmm.
right? And I know in that moment you didn't feel like you would ever be able to talk to anybody, but look at you today, right? I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you progressed beyond that moment because your voice is needed,
Thank you.
so
Thank
needed today, and that experience was necessary for all of the people that you will help just going further, right? So I'm just grateful. I just wanted to say that you're still
you.
here, right?
Thank you.
So you get to the place, you're at the hospital, you're starting to talk to people. You did have encounters where people did see you and they heard you. Um, what type of help did you get while you were there?
I would like to piggyback on something you
Yeah.
said earlier. Is like basically you can't get any help, unless you're honest with yourself. So the first day I refused to eat. I didn't take any medicines. I didn't talk to anybody because per the movies and per, the stuff that I've seen, they're just gonna stick me with more crazy juice and, drug me and just make me walk around like a zombie. I had already been on medication at this point. 6 months prior, I had gone to my primary care doctor and said, I'm not feeling like myself. Something's not right. I don't know what it is. I have increased thoughts of harming myself more than I have had in a long time. And I need help. And I was prescribed the medicine to help me with that. It was not helping. I was telling my primary care doctor, I'm starting to feel a little worse, oh, give it some time. You got to let it get into your system and stuff like that. So fast forward 6 months later, I go to the hospital and I'm like, I'm not taking anything. They put me on new medicines. I was told to take like 3 new medicines. I already am not a person who is used to taking medicines. And I'm just like, I'm not doing it. So I shut down. So for the first 2 days, yeah, because it was 2 days. First 2 days, I did not eat. I wouldn't go to the medicine line. I wouldn't go to any of the classes. I wouldn't do anything. All I would do was drink water. That's all I would do. Um, so, what I finally realized though is that I was basically being observed. I was like, it finally clicked. Like, you got to snap out of this because you're being observed. And how I realized that is at breakfast one morning. I'm seeing the nurses, the MHTs at their computers, like looking at, around the room, seeing who's eating what, documenting and stuff like that. So that one person who was a very friendly MHT to me, she was like, sweetheart, if you want to go home, you're going to have to do better than this. And that's all she would say to me, And so she was like, you got to try to eat something. You got to try to participate. You got to try to do this because part of what you're in right now is just to get out of that funk, get out of that place of darkness. And so on the third day, I finally just went to the group therapy. And I finally got a chance to actually see a doctor. Um, or I actually allowed myself to go see a doctor. And that's when I was kind of, asked all these invasive questions and feeling really embarrassed once again, talking about my childhood and stuff like that. And then finally, by the end of the day, I had some answers. I was told, based on what you have going on and based on some of the things that we've tested you for, you are, diagnosed with PTSD and depression. And here's some information on, what each one of these mean for you. So now I get why I was in those highs and those lows, or why certain things would bother and trigger me, or something like that. Now I get it. So
Yeah.
I had to do the work though to get the answers. It wasn't just handed to me. I just kind of I had to tell them what was wrong so they could tell me what was wrong.
That's that honesty, right? The level of your honesty determines the magnitude of help that you received, and you needed answers because it wasn't just like you woke up one day depressed. Like
Right.
it was years on top of years on top of years of pushing through, being the strong Black woman, fighting through it despite, and it just all came tumbling down.
Yeah.
So when it came time for you to be discharged, how did that feel to know, okay, I am going back into, the real world, into my life, being that you now know what it is that you're dealing with concerning your mental health, but circumstances are still what they were prior to going in. What was that like for you?
Um, Coming home, just opened my eyes up to a whole new level of issues or mental health issues that we ignore so much. I felt very much like a soldier who came home from war, who's seen a lot of stuff, because I saw a lot while I was in that institution. And it was some things that I was just like, I just need to be covered right now. I just need to just make it home, And so I can understand, and also being a former correctional officer, I can understand what it's like for an inmate coming home to a world that's totally different after seeing so much and being in a system, being told when to wake up, when to go to breakfast, when to take medicines, when to do this. And I only had to experience that for a total of the first time for 4 days, 5 days, including the hospitals, the actual hospital stay too. So with that being said, when I came home, I shut down. I now know that triggers is a term that I was introduced to. I now know that, certain things will trigger me and will cause, me to have like, some type of, flashback. Um, I now know that certain things would trigger me to cause me to go into a state of depression. So for the first month, I pulled back and I didn't go to work. I was at home. I stayed in my room. I did not want to associate with anyone. I shut off the whole entire world because I needed to figure out what can I do to save myself from myself, because I'm still at a point where you've unloaded all this information on me, but I don't know where to go to continue to get help outside of this, facility. I don't have someone saying, okay, Casandra, it's time to get up, time to go take your medicine. I had to do that by myself. So I fell back into another state of depression. And I actually got readmitted into the hospital for a second time, August 18th of 2020. So just a little over 2 months after being released the first time, I was right back in there. I tried to take every single one of the pills that were prescribed to me, well over 40 pills. I took every single one of them and swallowed it and was just hoping not to go way back up. And it was because of a very good close friend of mine who knew that I wasn't okay. And I lied to her just so I can go, because I had made it back to work at this point. I was probably back at work for maybe a good week or so and just trying to get adjusted to life again. And I was like, this is too much. I don't want to have to explain why I was gone for 2 months. I don't want to have to go through talking to people about, what type of conditions I now have. I literally started having heart palpitations and I almost felt like, I was going to pass out. So I went home that night and I took every single one of the pills I had within reach. And my friend was the one who told my company, and they immediately were like, you got to go. This time she took me. She took me to the hospital. So um, I had a moment because this is a friend of mine who I feel like is stronger than, any material on this planet. And to know that I might have possibly hurt her because I was trying to leave again really did something to me.
Mm.
And I took myself out of the equation the second time around and said, I know I have a lot of things I have going on, but even if I, do successfully commit suicide, what am I going to do, or what happens to anyone else who could actually survive from my story? So it was at that moment of going through the whole process again. I was put back into the same hospital room that I was in. So I panicked from that, because this time I'm like, I know what not to say. I know not to say I was trying to commit suicide. I know not to say these words because I don't want to be coded. But unfortunately, because I had so many pills in my system, I didn't have to say anything.
Right.
So it's put back into the same room, transported back to the same facility, seeing the same doctors and nurses again. And I was like, this isn't gonna work. I gotta do something different.
What was the something different that you did?
Um, this time go around, my second time being in the hospital, I actually started to participate and kind of took like a leadership role that I normally would take outside of
Mhm.
my personal circumstance, and was like, trying to motivate people, this is not where you're going to find the help that you need. You got to get out here and live and figure out what's going to cause your trigger, so you know not to go through it again, because it's going to happen. Every day I face challenges that are still new to me since, coming out of the hospital the second time. So having to face those battles, and being comfortable with my demons just as much as my inner peace, so I can understand that these struggles are going to come. It's
Yeah,
preparation that's going to help me get better.
absolutely.
So I was just trying to pass on that energy to everyone else, and still not healthy myself, but still doing the Cassandra thing of just trying to make sure everybody else is good too. So
Right, right. And sometimes when we care for others, it's a direct reflection of giving that care to ourselves. Sometimes the things we hear ourselves say, we have to pause and ingest it as well.
mhm.
And it's planting seeds at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Those seeds come back to you, and that harvest comes back, and it's just like somebody's gonna deposit something in you that you need to hear as well.
Right.
Here you are, literally almost a year later, and you're still here, and finding purpose and reason to live and just continue on, and even finding the strength to share, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
who has that experience been like, um, sharing your truth with people who had no idea?
Um, it was very scary at first. My immediate family did not understand what was going on, and I don't come from a very close knit family, anyways. Like, we can go days and weeks without checking in with each other and be just fine. I've never been okay with that, but that's just how it has been. So while I was in the hospital, at the time, the person I was with was trying to make phone calls and, relaying messages to my family and my loved ones. And just getting the feedback of the different reactions, had me up in the air about what was going on too. So coming home, I had to be very careful about how I spoke to people. I made sure that, um, I had a very clear mind. I made sure that I was in a very safe place, as you mentioned before. And I have only shared what led up to the moments of me being hospitalized, but I still have not shared, why did that moment even happen? And a lot of that has to do with, because I'm still trying to sort out a lot of things from my past before I fully go out into the world and say, here's what happened and why I'm fighting so hard for other people not to go down this road, because I don't want you where I was at, or there are other resources other than the road I had to take. So here's what I can do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that shocked me coming out of the hospital is that I was fully insured. So it wasn't that I was on any type of assistance to get hospital care, and the doctors, you know, just didn't pay attention to me or anything like that. Fully insured, great insurance. I even had, you know, backup insurance through my company, through like a supplemental insurance company. I'm trying not to drop any names of anything at all, but
Mm-hmm.
had a supplemental insurance company that I had been faithfully paying, you know, short term and long term disability to. And when I got home, I had to put in a claim to, you know, get my long term disability so I can recover the first time that I got home in June. That process took a long time. And then I finally got my letter at the beginning of August saying I was denied because this particular short term disability I have, which is very popular company, does not cover anything related to mental health as far as leave. So my representative for that company, who represented her company and sold the product to our company, came in and was like, "There's no way. You have a doctor's excuse. It shows that, you know, you have this going on. It shows you're on this medication. You can't, you know, because you have to take this particular medication. You can't, you know, be on the phone because your speech will be slurred. It made me very drowsy. You have a legit reason for being out of work right now." And my doctor even gave me leave until, you know, the beginning of August when I did go back the first time. And so she was shocked, and they fought for me and tried really hard to get the process overturned, but mental health is not covered. um so you tell that to someone who's already financially struggling, because, you know, 2020 was hard for a lot of people. um and so was it for, you know, me too, you know. But you're now telling me that the 2 months that I was out, I'm not getting paid for it at all. You know, I had already used all the vacation time I had already used whatever time was allowed to me by my company. So this supplemental insurance is not going to help me now. I was beside myself, you know. I was really upset and mad, and that kind of led to why I went back in the second time as well. So um talking to people about these different things, you have the people who are like, "Oh, you just needed a vacation. You could have said something, you know, or it couldn't have been that bad, or, you know, or something like that." And that bothered me more too. But then I was like, "Cassandra, let's not go back into that state because only you were at that hospital. Only you were by yourself going through that." I didn't want to put myself back into that. So I had to figure out what can I do to educate people on what's going on.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I want to two things that you said that I want to bring up. One is we're seeing this trend with mental health not being a priority in our healthcare system. Meanwhile, we have to pay so much money for healthcare in the US, and to
Yeah.
be our insurance prices are outrageous. And then when you have an issue with your mental health, then it's not covered.
Right.
Um, Burnout is this thing they have now created a diagnosis for burnout, um, but it only pertains to the workplace.
Right.
And I hate that because I'm like, so are you saying that only work is the only factor that can burn a person out?
Right.
That's not true, but that's the only factor that is considered under that diagnosis.
Yep.
So the healthcare system has ways of even eliminating certain people. Certain people come from certain lifestyles and certain environments that is going to cause them to experience burnout at higher rates than others. But they said only work. And they even tried to limit it to the type of work, right? Because of our healthcare system. So you just bringing that up and saying just we don't have the support in place when it comes down to mental health, right?
Right.
Um, And then you talked about who you shared it with. I have a rule that everybody is not able to receive the things that you have to say. And it's not sometimes because people don't love you,
Right.
but people speak to you from their experiences. So if they've never been in the place that you were in, they don't have the things to say, I get it. So they're just like, oh, well, I don't understand. It's not for you to understand.
Right.
Sometimes we just need to let people know that we see them and we hear them.
That's it.
And we don't always have to give advice. We don't always have to come up with a story to compare. Just allow people to be seen and heard. That saves more lives than something that you can muster up in your head to say in a moment that you have no level of understanding of. Right.
Absolutely.
So just kudos to you to being careful with who you shared it with.
Mhm.
'Cause our words, when we open ourselves up, it's like when we're infected, we're giving people permission to, infect us further, to cause more harm to us. We have to be careful when we decide to share things. And so even some of the things that you aren't talking about yet,
Yeah.
that's important. And I think that is a very, very wise decision, because you don't have to have it all figured out to be helpful.
No.
I think that's the story we tell ourselves, that when I get it all together, then I'm going to know. There are some people that need you right where you are.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you have, decided to talk even just now. And I know that there's more to the story that we're going to hear.
Yeah.
But
I'll be more than happy to come back to talk about more and
absolutely,
as it develops, and
100%.
um, if I may, I would like to add that the inspiration behind not having the support and help is what caused me to create a safe place in my own right. And I have an Instagram page called Cassie's Chronicles, and that's CASIES _Chronicles. And it's about the different things and the different ways I try to heal, and me just trying to spread that same love and energy to others and maybe help open their eyes. I've already had a few people who hit my page up and like, I had no idea, that I could have looked at a situation the way that you're looking at it and be okay.
Yeah.
I had no idea that I could face some of the monsters that I have faced and not have to worry about somebody, judging me or something like that. I welcome everyone, just as you're doing with me. I welcome everyone to tell their story. And I don't care who has never believed you before you got to me. Tell me what you need to tell me so we can try to see if we can figure this out together. You know what I'm saying? And while I'm no professional, I have no degrees, no certifications in helping people. This is just my human right to get out here and give back to mankind and try to make the world a better place. Because if I can make you a little bit better or help you get to be a little bit better, you won't hurt someone else. They won't go into this state of depression or whatever the case may be.
100%.
And maybe eventually, what I'm saying, that love will just eventually heal the world. Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to be one of those people. I'm trying to say, I get where you're coming from. I understand, this happening as a child. I understand this happening as an adult. I understand you're not where you want to be in life. I get that the relationships didn't work out. I get that the whole friendships didn't work out. I get it all.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning, and I'm teachable, and I'm open to learning, and I don't mind anyone sharing something with me so I can take it either as a lesson or a blessing.
100%.
And that's the kind of mindset that I'm trying to get everybody into, especially when they come across my page. It's full of positivity, tough love, firm but fair.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just get out there and let's do it. We only have one life to live, and a lot of people take that YOLO concept as let's party, but there's so much to discover out here. There's so many things that I am taking more time to, get out here and enjoy. When I'm with my nieces and nephews now, I'm, seeing how as a child I was them, and but I had to run and go help take care of my siblings or something. So I tell them, when you're with auntie, your only job is to be a child.
Yeah, yeah.
Take it away from them. So
Hmm.
things so much more differently now, and I'm just trying to share that with others.
Absolutely. And that's Cassie, CASIE_Chronicles.
Yes, Cassie's Chronicles. It's actually Cassie's Chronicles with a
Yes.
yes.
I put it on the screen.
I
Um,
see you. You're so
I'm
awesome.
going
Look
to
at
add the S to it so that everybody can see. There we go.
yeah, and I have so Cassie's Chronicles. Um, yep, I'm sorry, I'm cheating and having to look at my own phone.
That's okay.
That's another thing too, like social media and trying to utilize it, as one of your main platforms for someone who doesn't do that, who hasn't really been in that world. This is really hard for me, but I'm learning, and I embrace all of this every single day. It keeps my mind busy, keeps me
Mm-hmm.
going, and it helps me to live. So be
Absolutely.
patient with me as I'm trying to like do certain things. But
Yes.
so Cassie's Chronicles chronological is a chronological page, and not necessarily in order per se, but just certain things that I do to try to help everybody else feel good too. And I also have a second page where it's at Cassie's Cafe 747. And that one is Cassie's again underscore and then Cafe 747. That one is more of me taking my passion to cook and feed people. I am not a chef, but I have always cooked and provided meals and nourishment to a lot of people. That's my love song to people.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike you, my songbird, I am not blessed with the vocal
You can
sounds
sing anyway.
of showing love. I love music. I love music. So I took the two things that I love the most, which is food. Well, I guess I would say three things: food, company, and music, and just kind of combining it. So my Cassie's Cafe is more of an event space concept that I have where I'm creating kind of like that Love Jones kind of era vibe where, the open mic, and I'm serving hot teas with, different herbs that can help with calming down, this. And by the way, the second time I went to the hospital, I was diagnosed with anxiety, which is why I was constantly having the palpitations and, almost talked myself out of anything. So, I study a lot of herbs and a lot of roots now, and I actually incorporate that in my cooking and food. And I try to heal people through their bodies so that their minds can be right and maybe the
Mhm.
outcome can be better too. So
100%. That's awesome. And I love it because it's not just finding ways for other people to heal, but it's really healing yourself through that. I always tell people like you're your first customer. Can you heal yourself through what it is that you are giving to other people, right? When you are using these tools and then sharing them, it's so important. And what you will know and what you will grow to learn is as you continue to help people heal, it will heal you. I remember when I first became a coach years ago, I was healing from sexual assault. And I have talked to so many women who are victims of that. And then in them sharing their story and me sharing things, it has healed me in more ways than time could heal me, more ways than anything. It helped me to understand the purpose that was attached to what I've been through. And that's a whole nother form of healing when you finally discover that I had to go through that to do what I'm doing today. It just changes your perspective of your pain. So as you just continue, it will just heal you further, and your story will become greater and greater through every person that you help.
thank you so much. I just I'm grateful for those who simply hear me. Um, like you, I have a background with being abused sexually as well. And I'm not trying to say that I know everyone's story. I'm just trying to be relatable enough that people know that there are resources out here. Because on my own independent research, and just by speaking to help other people too, um, I've discovered some resources that can be helpful and that can help people who are just having a bad day, so it won't lead to the point where I was at. So thank you for allowing me to utilize your platform to kind of get out my message, and for just being a beacon of light to me, as you have always been to me and many other of our fellow classmates as well. So
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure. I'm grateful that you just took this time out today to talk with me, to share your story, to help other people, people that you don't even know. Your story will help them so much. And most importantly, thank you for finding the courage to keep going every single day. Thank you for just believing that you can. Thank you for utilizing the tools that you've created yourself to heal yourself, because we need you. We need you. You've always been a warm hug, a warm place to just be around, a beautiful spirit and a presence. And on your lowest days, I just want you to remember that the light that comes along with you, the world needs it. I need it. And so please just continue to live, live, and live. I love you.
I love you more. And I have this thing where I tell people, I no longer love people to death. I love you to life, baby, because even beyond this life, I don't care what anyone believes in, but as long as you believe in the higher power and know that this thing is greater than you,
Mm-hmm.
know that, I love you to life,
Yeah.
because I'm going to continue to love you beyond the physical. I want to pay homage to you regardless. I want to carry on your legacy, and I have to live in order to do that.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Quincy.
You're
I appreciate
welcome.
you.
It's my absolute pleasure.
All right. Well, definitely take care and have a good one.
All righty.